The voting at the last presidential election was unexpected in many quarters. It indicated how the mind of the general public and of congressmen in particular was working at the time. In my election appeal, I had stressed two principles to uphold which I would strive my utmost, that is, democracy within the Congress and resistance to the federal scheme. There was no reflection at all either against Mahatma Gandhi or his principles or policy in any of my statements. Nevertheless, after the result was declared, Mahatmaji issued a statement declaring that the defeat of Dr. Pattabhi was his own defeat. This came as an utter surprise to everybody. Those congressmen who had faith in Mahatmaji personally, but not in the High Command, were affected by this statement and withdrew their support from me. There is no doubt that a large majority of the congressmen who disliked the High Command did not want to give up Mahatma Gandhi. When I met Mahatma Gandhi at Wardha on 15th February, he suggested that I should form a new working committee, without the old members who followed the High Command. We had a long discussion on the question of a homogeneous versus a composite cabinet. Towards the end of our conversation I said that I would try my best to persuade Sardar Patel and others to remain on the working committee. Mahatmaji said that he had no objection if I could persuade them to do so. My unfortunate illness intervened and I could not meet the members of the working committee when they met at Wardha for the meeting on 22nd February. On that day they sent in their resignation. What happened thereafter at Tripuri is too fresh in everybody's mind to need re-narrating. I shall only say this, that it is seriously claimed on behalf of the High Command that there was no obstruction on their part at Tripuri. After the Tripuri Congress, I was too ill to meet Mahatma Gandhi. He wanted me to go to Delhi and stay there, but my doctors thought that that was not possible. They sent a long telegram to Mahatmaji explaining my condition and suggested that we should try correspondence instead. About a fortnight later, when I was somewhat better and I found that our correspondence was not leading to a settlement, I became eager for a personal discussion with him. I was so frantic in my desire to meet him that I was prepared to defy the doctors and go to Delhi for a couple of days. Unfortunately, Mahatmaji had to leave for Rajkot suddenly and we could not meet. Then came our meeting in Calcutta on 27th April. Mahatmaji's position was virtually the same as at Wardha on 15th February, and as he had consistently adopted in his letters to me in March and April. He wanted me to appoint a new working committee leaving out the members who had resigned. For reasons which I detailed in my letters to him and in my statements before the All India Congress Committee on 29th April, I could not accept his advice. Such a committee would not have commanded Mahatmaji's confidence and would have, therefore, militated against the requirements of Pandit Pant's resolution. Moreover, it would have been contrary to my own views, because I believed in the principle of a composite cabinet as being in the best interest of the country. Consequently, I repeatedly requested Mahatmaji in my letters and my talks in Calcutta to undertake the responsibility vested in him by the Tripuri Congress and announce the personnel of the working committee. Any decision of his would have been binding on me. When in Calcutta he finally declined to undertake this task, we arrived at a deadlock. There appeared no other alternative but to place the matter before the All India Congress Committee. At this juncture it was suggested that I should discuss the matter with Dr. Rajendra Prasad and other members of the old Congress Working Committee and endeavour to arrive at an arrangement as to the personnel of the new committee. I told Gandhiji that I would gladly do so. If this attempt had succeeded, I would have placed our informal agreement before the AICC for formal ratification. But unfortunately we could not arrive at a settlement. The question now is, why did we fail and who is responsible for the failure? Negotiations commenced first with Dr. Rajendra Prasad. I suggested that 4 new members should be taken on the committee and I suggested 4 names. My proposal assured a majority in the working committee to the members who had resigned, but provided at the same time for fresh blood. After some discussion at Sodepur, we moved to Maulana Abul Kalam Azad's residence for a further talk. There I was told that the names I had suggested were not acceptable. Some other names were proposed instead, and Pandit Jawaharlal Nehru's name was suggested for the office of the General Secretary. I warmly welcomed the idea and pressed Panditji to accept it. Before we could arrive at a definite conclusion, we again adjourned for a discussion with Mahatmaji. When we resumed the thread of our discussion at Sodepur, we were faced with an entirely new proposal, namely that the old working committee should be reappointed en bloc. I had gathered from our earlier talks that there was no serious objection to the principle of having 4 new members, and that the disagreement was about the names only. I was naturally staggered when this new suggestion was mooted and was supported by Gandhiji. I was told that some time later 2 vacancies would occur and 2 new members could be taken in their places. On further inquiry, I was told that that was the maximum number of new members I could have. I wanted to know if these 2 new members could be appointed right at the beginning, but the reply was in the negative. To clarify the position further, I inquired if, in the 2 vacancies which would occur later on, my nominees would be acceptable to them, and I suggested 2 names in this connection. Both these names were turned down. Then I inquired if out of the 2 new members, I could have a second secretary of my choice who could be stationed in Calcutta. I told them that formerly there used to be 3 secretaries, and I proposed to have this year one to be stationed at Allahabad and the other at Calcutta. This was absolutely necessary in order to help me in my work. Once again my proposal was turned down. When we reached this stage in our negotiations, I told Mahatmaji that it was quite clear that in no single detail was my proposal acceptable to the others. In the total absence of the spirit of accommodation on the other side, I did not see how we could work together in future. I had no desire to remain a dummy president, or to hang on to office at any cost. I would, therefore, place my resignation in the hands of the All India Congress Committee and thereby enable them to take steps to elect a new president and a new working committee. I have no doubt in my mind that in submitting my resignation I adopted the right course. It was not possible for me to appoint a purely leftist cabinet, not only because that was against my conviction, but also because it would have been in contravention of the Pant resolution which I had previously declared I would implement. I should add in this connection that I had explicitly asked Mahatmaji if he would empower me to announce before the AICC that a leftist cabinet of my choice commanded his implicit confidence in case I accepted his advice regarding a homogeneous leftist cabinet and gave effect to that advice. Mahatmaji could not empower me to do so. Consequently, the appointment of a homogeneous leftist cabinet would have amounted to an open defiance of the Tripuri Congress resolution. As I have repeatedly declared, my resignation was decided upon in an entirely helpful spirit and, in my view, will prove to be in the best interest of the country. Self-respect, honor and duty towards my country demanded that I should resign, after having made all possible attempts to reach an honorable compromise and to avert a crisis within the Congress.